You know that feeling when you open your investment app for the first time? Or maybe you Google how to start investing, and within 30 seconds you've got 17 tabs open. You're reading about index funds, ETFs, Roth IRAs, compound interest, dividend stocks, and your brain just completely shuts down? You close every single tab. You tell yourself you'll figure it out later. And later never comes. That's not a you problem, that's an information overload problem. And if that's been your experience, you are in exactly the right place right now. Let's talk about what's actually going on here, because I think you deserve someone who's honest with you about this. Most people don't fail at investing because they're not smart enough. They fail before they even start because nobody ever broke it down for them in a way that actually made sense. The finance world is filled with jargon designed, whether intentionally or not, to make everyday people feel like outsiders. Like investing is some secret club for people who wear expensive suits and read the Wall Street Journal every morning. And that feeling, that imposter syndrome, that whisper in your head saying this isn't for someone like me, that is what's costing you more than you realize. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every single day that you're not investing, inflation is quietly eating your savings alive. That money sitting in your bank account right now, it's actually losing purchasing power every single year. The things you buy today cost more than they did 3 years ago. And if your money isn't growing faster than inflation, you're technically getting poorer while doing nothing at all. That's a hard thing to sit with, but it's real. And it's happening to millions of people right now who feel exactly like you do. Now, before we go any further, I want to be real with you. We have some related programs linked down below in the video description that go much deeper into these concepts with step-by-step guidance. If you've been telling yourself, I'll start investing when I understand it better, those resources exist precisely for that moment. The people who are most ready to say it's not for them are often the ones who need it most. Just something to keep in mind. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine two versions of your life running parallel to each other. In one version, you keep doing what you're doing right now. You work hard, you pay your bills, you save a little when you can. But year after year, the savings barely grow. You're 55 years old, and you realize that the retirement you imagined, the one where you have freedom, where you're not stressed about every dollar, where you can actually live life on your terms, is just not possible with what you've built. And the worst part? You always knew deep down that you should have started earlier. That thought alone is devastating. In the other version of your life, something shifts. You started. You didn't wait until you felt ready, because let's be honest, nobody ever feels completely ready. You started small. You were consistent. And because of something called compound interest, which is essentially your money making money, which then makes more money, your investment grew in a way that felt almost impossible. The difference between these two timelines isn't intelligence. It isn't luck. It isn't having a lot of money to begin with. It's starting. People who understand compound interest have called it the eighth wonder of the world. When your money earns returns and those returns start earning returns, the growth becomes exponential over time. Put in a small amount consistently and give it time to work, and the results can genuinely transform your financial future. That's not hype, that's mathematics. So let's actually talk about how you start. And I mean actually start, not theoretically start. The very first thing you need to do is shift how you think about investing. Stop thinking of it as gambling. Stop thinking of it as something risky that only people with disposable income can do. Investing done correctly is simply putting your money to work instead of letting it sit still. Second, you don't need a lot of money to begin. This is possibly the biggest myth that stops people. Many platforms today allow you to invest with amounts that most people spend on a single meal. The barrier to entry is lower than it has ever been in human history. The tools that professional investors use are now available to anyone with a smartphone. Third, you need to understand the concept of diversification, and I promise this is simpler than it sounds. Imagine you're carrying a basket of eggs. If you put all your eggs in one basket and you drop it, everything breaks. But if you spread those eggs across multiple baskets, dropping one doesn't destroy everything. That's diversification. Spreading your money across different types of investments so that if one goes down, you're protected by the others. Fourth, the market goes up and down. This is not a bug. This is a feature. The people who build real wealth through investing are not the ones who try to perfectly time the market, buying at the absolute lowest point and selling at the absolute highest. The people who win are the ones who stay consistent through the ups and downs, who don't panic when things dip, who understand that historically, over long periods of time, markets have trended upward. Here's something powerful that most people learn too late. The cost of inaction is always higher than the cost of imperfect action. Waiting until you know everything means you'll never start. The investors who are most successful aren't the most educated ones in the room. They're the ones who started before they felt ready, learned as they went, and stayed consistent when it got uncomfortable. Think about someone who decided 3 years ago that they finally understood enough to start. They weren't an expert. They made mistakes. They had months where they second-guessed everything. But they kept going. And now, 3 years later, they look back at the version of themselves who was still just doing more research, and they feel genuine gratitude that they stopped waiting and took that first step. That kind of transformation is not special to certain people. It's available to anyone who decides that today is the day. The question you need to ask yourself honestly is this: what is it actually costing me to wait? Not just financially, although that cost is very real and it compounds just like interest does, but emotionally. The stress of financial uncertainty, the anxiety of not knowing if you'll be okay. The weight of watching other people seem to have their finances figured out while you still feel lost. That cost is enormous, and it's one that people rarely talk about but almost everyone feels. Here's what shifts for people when they finally start. The fog lifts. Investing stops feeling like this enormous, terrifying, incomprehensible thing and starts feeling like something you actually have some control over. That shift in mindset, from helpless to capable, from overwhelmed to informed, changes not just your financial picture but your relationship with money entirely. And that ripple effect touches every area of your life. The people who never invest are not bad at money. They were just never given the right starting point, the right framework, the right voice that made them feel like it was actually possible for them. Not for experts, not for wealthy people, for them. This is your starting point. Today. Not Monday. Not after you read 3 more articles. Today. Investing is not about becoming wealthy overnight. It's about making a decision, however imperfect, to stop letting time work against you and start letting it work for you. The math favors the person who starts now over the person who starts perfectly later. Every single time. You don't have to have it all figured out, you just have to begin. And if you're ready to go beyond the basics and get a real structured path that takes you from where you are right now to where you want to be, the programs linked in the video description below were built for exactly this moment. The people who hesitate and tell themselves they'll check it out later are the same ones who are still hesitating a year from now. The people who take action today are the ones who look back in 2 years completely grateful they didn't wait another day. Your future self is watching what you do right now. Make it something worth watching.